So, welcome to the Caffeinated Librarians podcast. This week we're doing my pick, In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. It's been described as a forgotten memory and a romantic narrative of forbidden longings and misconnections. I'm really excited to talk about it. You guys wanna?
Sorry, we had the window.
I don't know if we'll pick that up at
We'll
all,
figure it out.
but that shouldn't be too bad.
Fine.
All right.
So what you guys think?
So I actually saw this movie, but many years ago, and I forgot I saw it. But then I watched it and I'm like, oh, this seems very familiar. Very familiar. I didn't get it when I first watched it because I was 18 and between high school and college, and I was just watching stuff off of Netflix. And watching it again many years later, I'm like, oh, I got this now. And I recognize the actors that are in this movie from other movies, which I absolutely love. And just the whole concept of it, how it was filmed, the cinematography, the use of color, the use of space. It's just beautifully done.
Where did you live when you watched this the first time?
Where did I live?
Yeah.
I lived at home.
Where is that? I'm not trying to get your address. I'm just,
Well,
this is leading to something.
I'm curious where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Dutchess County.
So you have plenty of trees around there.
Yeah.
So you could have whispered plenty of things into trees, and you would have totally known.
You don't
What the
whisper
deal
to
was with
trees
this
in your
movie.
free time?
I could have, yes. Yeah.
I love that part of the movie.
Yeah.
But you
That
didn't.
No.
I shouldn't make a joke because that was just heartbreaking and beautiful. And
Yeah.
Really.
I like that idea of like when he talks about the whole belief that you whisper your secrets and that's where the secrets stay. And I kind of thought that was beautiful.
Have you ever done that?
No, but
Are you going to now?
no, I don't really have secrets that are like
You could whisper them into the microphone and they won't
Simona's
go
got
anywhere.
deep, dark secrets.
What's your version of the tree, Simona?
my version of the tree.
Yeah.
Mine's screaming into a pillow, probably.
You scream your secrets into a pillow?
No, mine is
Psycho.
actually no, mine is
First off, that
This is
scene
a
was never. First off, he said a tree, and then he went all the way to Cambodia to talk to a ruin. I saw the kid sitting there, I'm with the kid. I'm like, what are you doing? Those are my country's ancient ruins. What are you doing over there? He's just over here like,
he just stuffed a little dirt or plants. He didn't like fundamentally alter
Rude.
the structure of the architecture.
that is a historical land site, and he's just I was like, please don't stick mud on that. And he did it, and I was like, I get it. I get what he's doing. I was like, don't do that.
I always wonder, like,
That's not
so
yours.
I don't want to harp too much on that one moment of an entirely beautiful movie, but that little moment, I wonder for like a Western audience, we kind of we wouldn't innately understand the concept of that because we don't.
I don't think so. Because
I didn't even finish my point.
it was just the thought in my head
boy.
because we have the wailing. There's the wailing wall or the prayer wall in Jerusalem where people go to pray and they stick their prayers in the wall. And
But those
it's
aren't
kinda
secrets.
but it's
Like-
prayer can be
Yeah.
a secret.
Yeah.
I guess
but
maybe Western.
like
it is like in Cambodia at the height of the Vietnam War, so I feel like that also carries a lot of meaning to it as well. That you
Absolutely.
can't really relate too much.
Maybe
No.
I shouldn't say Western as much. I mean like just like the United States
There
like
you go.
cultural
There you go.
concept.
Okay.
Only because like you're talking about these cultures that are like over 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, and I think there's just. I remember I was like complaining once about the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and I'm like, they talk about how special this stuff is, but they don't explain why. And so far, it sounds like his son is doing way better of a job at making sushi than his dad is, but because he doesn't have his dad's reputation, he's going to have to toil forever and ever just to get a tenth of his dad's popularity. And I was saying it to this friend of mine. He's like, well, yeah, but Japan thinks in terms of 1,000 years, not just a lifetime. And I was like, maybe that's, I don't know,
It's a lifetime of
food for thought.
culmination.
I lost my place because Katie smashed me.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think that also indirectly connects to one of the things. When I originally saw this movie, I was in my early 20s. I didn't really have much life experience as far as relationships went. And I was really mad that she stayed with her husband. But now, with my own life experiences and understanding their culture, their morals, their values, completely understand why she stayed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different mindset, but one that I get.
That was wrenching when they were play acting
Yeah.
and she just
And she
falls
just-
apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Twice.
This movie is just astonishingly beautiful,
Yeah.
and like I don't think there's a better cinematic depiction of just longing
Mhm.
that I've seen, at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Wong Kar-wai is a really beautiful director when it comes to just capturing textures and details and the feelings of just a specific moment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
very, very good stuff. Just the way time feels. This is a short movie. This is 90 minutes. This feels like an eternity, though.
Yeah.
These are in it. You're in it with them, and you're feeling everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a complaint. I want to be very
Yeah.
clear. That is high praise.
While I was doing research on the film for the podcast, I learned that he wanted the audience to feel like they were a neighbor watching everything.
Yeah.
They were very close and intimate and up close with it.
I definitely felt that.
That makes sense. And I remember I was talking to Lou before this podcast last week about it's almost very slice of life, and all of the moments that you're observing, it's very much the mundane. So you see her going to work, talking to her boss. The dialogue seems very real, very natural. You see her interacting with her neighbors. So that makes a lot of sense.
I love when she goes for noodles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love her outfits
Yes.
in this movie because she is a beautiful woman.
God, yeah.
Yeah, so like I loved the outfits. I just loved how elegant everyone looks in this film. But I wanted to go back to the thing with whispering the secrets into the tree. I don't mean to harp on it, but something about that really got me. And like when Ben mentioned about the West, or more specifically the United States, I think it's also because maybe in the U.S. we've sort of lost touch with that aspect of like, I'm going to call it spirituality. I think not everyone, there are people who are spiritual, but I think we've kind of lost that connection with nature and our spirituality. So when I see something like that, it's like, that's sort of beautiful, because there are a lot of cultures that believe that we're deeply connected to nature and that nature responds to us just as we respond to nature. So I like the idea that if you cannot confide in a person, nature will be there to help you release those emotions and those secrets. I was almost reminded, it's not exactly the same thing, but in, I forgot what country in Italy, I don't know if it's the Romeo and Juliet story, is it
Verona.
Verona. Where there's like, you can, there's a wall where lovers throughout the years have written their like love message, their thoughts, and you put like a lock and you put it there. It's essentially almost the same thing. You're sort of putting your wishes, your desires, and putting it out there, and hoping that the universe is gonna sort of fulfill that desire to some extent. That's what that thing about whispering in the tree kind of reminded me
It
of.
also is
Yeah.
reminiscent of in Paris on a bridge.
Yes,
People
the
put
locks.
locks on
Yeah.
the bridge, and it's supposed to like
Yeah.
Probably do that in
solidify.
Korea too.
Yeah.
Solidify like your feelings for the person
Yeah.
that you're putting the lock on for.
Yeah. And you also get the feeling that although they're surrounded, they're still very isolated, which I think is also a very modern kind of feeling, because think about how many of us are surrounded, but we're still so alone. Not everyone, thankfully, but a lot of people are surrounded by people, but they're still very much alone. And I kind of got that feeling too, especially with the main couple. They're always surrounded by people. I don't think there's ever a moment where the two of them are ever really like completely alone, except for when they're together, but even those moments are few and far in between. But they're surrounded, but still these are two lonely people,
Yeah, I think.
That's why you never see the spouse's faces.
And I kind of, like I was like saying, there must be a reason why we're not seeing their faces. And especially when that nosy older man, who I kind of liked, who's always talking about how he goes to prostitutes, and he's
what is his name? Pang?
Is that
He's a
Ping?
bro.
yeah, and he's talking to the main character. He says, I saw your wife with someone. I was like, oh, I wonder if it's the husband of the other, because like you don't see his face, you don't see the main character's wife's face.
No.
So I was like, oh, I wonder if that's
Because they're absent. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. They're absent within their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on about the outfits. I feel like every Wong Kar-wai film
Stunning.
deserves every award on earth for their makeup, hair, and costume design. From, I mean, maybe you get a pass for Chungking Express only because it was like this, you know, windstorm of a movie made in 21 days or something like that they just shot like on streets live while he was making Ashes of Time.
Hey, even that has some killer fits.
But but like this, In the Mood for Love, My Blueberry Nights when he made his first American film, The Grandmaster, like everything is just so gorgeous.
And that's one of the things that an article had pointed out to me that I then went back and looked for, is that over the course of the film, Sue's dresses get louder, like the prints get louder, the colors get louder. And I thought that was really interesting. And the film itself actually inspired a Marc Jacobs line of clothing.
Really?
And yeah, his Heaven collection is based on In the Mood for Love, which is really interesting. And there's a bar in Brooklyn that was inspired by the movie as well and is now like a destination for tourists.
And I'm gonna get the name of that bar.
It's called Mood Ring.
Caffeinated Librarians
It's
on the
gonna,
road?
it's gonna be the most melancholy bar, though. Everyone's
Yeah,
just
right.
It's a bunch of
sitting
trees
there
inside.
thoughtfully drinking.
Whisper.
like-
It's probably very red.
It's very
You have to
red.
look through your drink orders
like
into the
Two
tree.
seats, and one side has a tree, and the other side you can
It's a
sit
secret
at.
drink. Only
It's
people
very
know.
red, very moody,
And then you gotta
very
some
melancholy.
stuff.
Yeah. But it's very cool.
That would be a cool gimmick.
I know that this movie was a direct visual inspiration for Barry Jenkins' Moonlight.
I can see that.
And I didn't see it until the scene in the diner at the end, and I was like, okay, yeah, 100%. There's his
Yeah.
list.
I have a little baby list of 3 different movies that it influenced, and Moonlight is on there, and then Lost in Translation and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
When there's
There
a
was
very pinnacle scene in that movie. I don't know if everyone's seen
Sitting
it.
together doing bills. That scene, yeah.
They go to the
It's
Wong
just-
Kar-wai universe, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, this movie,
Just like, I don't know, how he captures Hong Kong is really a beautiful thing to me, and just I was doing some like readings of like critics essays and stuff about this movie leading up to this, and just like a lot of them pointing out like Hong Kong historically is always just like an island that's
Yeah.
caught in between things. It was caught between the British Empire and China, and even now it's sort of in a weird quasi state where it's like, okay, they're part of China, but they're kind of their own thing, and they're capitalist, but not for too long. And it's so that sort of just like anxiety reflected on the couple in the film of just like, what is this? Like, what is this? Where is it? Where could it possibly go? And this is just one singular moment is going to change. And something one of those essays pointed out to me was the hotel room number 2046. That is the year when like Hong Kong's own economy is supposed to end and like become part of China's per like the handover agreement. So I don't quite know what that means in context of the film, but I was just like, oh, I did not know that dimension to it.
And there's a movie, 2046,
Yes,
that I think
which
they
is
said
a
is like an indirect
sequel.
sequel to it,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Interesting.
It follows the Tony Leung character.
Oh yeah, I didn't know the significance of that, but that was.
he just becomes an empty, loveless man in 2046, right?
Yeah.
Or at least he begins that way. I couldn't finish it. I actually didn't like the movie.
I didn't finish it.
Yeah. But I owe it.
Oh, so
to
he's
Wong
in it?
Kar-wai.
The-
He is
Yes.
him.
Yes.
I mean, he's still like the handsomest man on earth,
Because
but he's just sort of like he's not very nice to Zhang Yi.
We're talking about, her wardrobe a lot. He was wearing some nice suits too.
Oh, his suits are so
Yeah.
sharp.
Yeah.
Brian was sitting next to me, and since he's a prosecutor, I'm like, ooh, he's got a nice suit. And I'm like hinting, I'm like, you should
Yeah,
take
and he's
some
just
notes.
like he's like the perfect frame for a good suit
Yeah.
too.
He's got a
like,
couple gray suits already, but his was shiny.
Just being trim and like
Yeah.
chiseled face and everything. You're just gonna always look good in a suit.
He looks like a puppy dog.
Two
The way he like stares at her, he's just like, I'm just like,
Yeah. His big, beautiful, sad eyes.
I just want to kind of like pet his hair, but you know you'll like screw it up because it's already greased back, and you're just like,
I want to just give him a hug.
yeah.
Curl him up
No
in a
hugs.
blanket. Give him
No
a hug.
hugs for him.
How are the people in this movie this beautiful?
I
Yeah.
actually didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, sorry.
How are the people in this movie this beautiful?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
really, Maggie and Tony are just like stunning human beings.
I know Maggie from this movie. What else do I know her from?
She was also
She's super famous.
She was like when I was watching that, I know I've
IMDb
seen this
right
woman before. The other film I know her from is Hero with Jet Li. Tony Leung is also
She
in
was
it.
Tony Leung's
She-
partner.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where I know her from. But
she
yeah,
was in Irma Vep.
The remake?
Yes. Well, the 96 one.
Okay.
She was in Ashes of Time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She was in Green Snake, which is a beautiful film. Earlier on in her career, she played like the girlfriend in a lot of like kung fu movies, which is just kind of very funny to look back on. Like, wow, they did not know who they were casting. Like, they were just like, "Ah,
I
whatever."
think they
It's
redid
like,
Green
no,
Snake as an
she's
animated
stunning.
movie.
Oh, did they?
This woman is one of the greatest
It's a sequel.
actresses imaginable. Like,
does she have a martial arts background?
not really.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, she looked like she did good work in Hero.
Well, I was watching behind the scenes for Hero, like the training. God, it looked really intense. I saw scenes of Tony training. I was like, oh my god, that poor man. Like really giving it all. Like they didn't like take any shortcuts whatsoever. But I was just because I know Zhang, she has like a dance background. And I think that helped with some of the martial arts that she had to do in the film. But I was just curious
Maggie Chung literally stood still and turned a tree red.
because that's how awesome she
Yeah.
is.
Okay, so she has been in some action films like The
Mhm.
Heroic Trio, which she's in with Michelle Yeoh and Anita Moy, and Executioners, the sequel to it, and New Dragon Gate Inn.
Is this actually the most romantic movie ever made? I know that's a very subjective question, but it makes the top of most of those lists. This and Casablanca, which
Yeah.
And this was on the list that came out last year.
Yes, it was very high on the Sight and Sound list.
Yeah.
It definitely belongs in the like greatest films ever, but I don't necessarily know if I would name it one of the best romances. I think it's a very human movie,
Yeah.
and I would put it on like the most human, most relatable, intimate film. But I don't necessarily think it's
Yeah. I
Focused
think
on being
intimate's a good word. Yeah, I don't know that I'd say romance, but
that's
maybe one of the
there,
more intimate
but-
movies I've ever seen, for sure.
I think romance is here and the movie's here. So it's on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
But it's not its main plot.
I would agree with that. I feel like romance is a subplot to this movie, and intimacy is more of like part of the main theme of this movie, and romance is more of the backseat because these people are dealing with their spouses who are cheating on them with each other, and it's and back to your comment about being lonely, it's like they realize that their marriages are broken and they're no longer in love with these people, or these people are not really in love with them, and coming to terms with that is a very lonely existence to be in. So I don't know that I would classify this movie as a romance movie.
And I was even thinking, like, I know we're probably not supposed to feel sympathy for Tony's wife in this film, but the scene when she calls Maggie's husband, she says, "You haven't told your wife yet," and you see her crying in the shower.
That's
Is it?
Maggie Chung crying in the
That's
shower.
Maggie Chung crying?
Because she
You
can
don't see
hear,
the spouses throughout the
But-
entire
She
but
can
he-
hear
film.
her husband next door.
She has her hair down, that's all. Is that like,
Oh, because in the
they have
showers-
the updos, but at the end of the night, like when it's showered, her hair is all
Oh, the
way
reason why
down,
I'm stuck is
so.
because you don't really see the woman, like, it's very blurred. So I thought that was intent. Oh, never mind. Forget
No,
it. Forget
yeah,
what.
when you
That's
cry,
too-
it's very blurry.
No!
I know.
I meant like when she's in the
I've
shower,
cried.
like you don't really even see the face that well too, which is why I think I mistook it for being because you don't even really see who's in the shower
That I
that well.
understand.
Never mind.
It's
So forget I said
one
that.
of my
But
favorite scenes, though, where she can hear her husband next door, and she goes and knocks on the door, and it's just her facial expression you watch the entire time, and it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Because she knows.
and also it's kind of daring because like they live, don't they live like right next
They
door?
do live next door.
So it's like that's kind of bold.
Which is how she heard her husband's voice.
yeah, it's like you don't.
Those walls are thin.
But it's almost like, are you not expecting that they'll eventually figure it out, or you just don't care
I think
that they're
it's
going to
like they
figure it
don't
out?
Care.
They don't care.
I think they don't care.
I liked the moving in scene.
Oh,
If
yeah.
we could talk about that, because it's very chaotic, but it's funny
it
at
just
the
reminded
same
me
time.
how horrible it is to move.
Yeah, but it's so funny because like, nope, that's
Especially with
wrong.
places
No,
with
that's
very
gonna go
small
in there.
hallways.
And
yeah.
what's so really overwhelming to me is that I'm gonna be doing that in like almost.
How
a
small are
minute.
the hallways?
It's a split level, so I have to go up a flight
yeah.
of stairs.
Just prepare really well.
No elevator.
Best you
No
can.
elevator.
Oh god.
But I was like that the
I wouldn't
claustrophobia
go in
of
the
that
elevator,
scene.
even if there was one.
But it is also there's a lot of
How
humor
dare you
to
be
it too. It's
helpful.
like these aren't my shoes; these belong to you. That's not mine. That's over. It was just really funny. I felt sorry for the moving guys too, but
Like putting each
No, the moving guys kept screwing up
Yeah.
everything. They were like,
Well,
that
too-
mattress, that dresser does not go here. And they're like,
To be
oh,
fair,
sorry.
the-
And I'm like,
the
what a
apartments
bad
are right
moving
next to
company.
the rooms
read
are right
the
next to
read the sign.
So I can't not think of this movie when I hear that song Kisat.
Yes.
It's just that and the violin themes.
I
That
love
Magi's
Oh,
theme. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's what is it? It's
You have notes for all
Yumeji's
this.
theme.
Wow.
I love this movie.
The pizzicato was like so,
so the-
haunting.
The theme is from the 1991 Japanese film Yumeji, so it's Yumeji's theme. And I was telling Joe about it and a couple of our other coworkers that you're listening to this and you can feel it in like your chest. You're sad, but also there's this anxiety running through the music and this specific theme. And it's played 9 different times throughout the film. So in and of itself, it becomes like another character, and you know what you're gonna get when you start to hear it.
And I think my favorite is when he's going to get noodles and they first like sort of slowly cross.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And that's like, I don't know, my favorite moment of the use of that song. But did you ever see My Blueberry Nights? There's a remake of this song in
Yeah.
that during a sad part with Norah Jones at the beginning, and it kind of
good.
draws you right in for a movie that doesn't really draw you all that in, but it's still beautiful. But the version of Yumeji's theme in that is, I think, just as nice, if not nicer, than the one we hear.
That's yeah, I really do love the music in this, and you can hear Nat King Cole in the background. And what I felt was interesting is he's singing in Spanish,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's singing in Spanish and horrifically mispronouncing everything. But it's
Oh my God,
just-
I wouldn't be able to tell, but I didn't know that.
it's a really odd choice, but also I think it's intentional as well, just because of how out of place it is. And it's like this beautifully romantic sounding song, but then like their lives are falling apart while you're listening to it, because they're sitting in the diner discovering that we both know our spouses are having an affair with each other while Nat King Cole is crooning in the background.
So, ultimately, do they heal each other, or does their heartbreak just become worse?
It definitely be.
I can't
She
tell.
has a child at the end of the whole thing, so clearly they have
think-
not. I don't know whose child that is.
No, that's her husband.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
her
it's her
husband.
husband's.
I
Yeah.
thought so. Yeah, I was like, clearly they just never
Sounds like you
separated.
didn't think so.
Yeah.
The way that this movie kind of presented itself in the beginning, I was like, I had a hard time in the beginning of it being like, are they married? And they're just playing some weird role play? Is that what's going on? I was having a hard time
So,
in the
I think that's the
beginning, but as
interesting
the
stuff that
movie-
the director was doing.
Yeah, it felt
the
at first
earth,
as if the way that their connection had started off as, because you never saw the spouses, that it felt like, okay, I was like, either the spouses are just not important to this whole thing, or they're important but not important enough to be like shown, and there's a whole point to that. Or the reason we're not seeing them is they're having some weird like this is them actually talking to each other and playing out this whole little soap opera thing that's going on.
Well,
And
when
then-
they're doing
yeah.
those rehearsals,
Yeah.
like you don't see, you like see
Yeah.
the back of his head or something. I think you're supposed to be like, she might actually be talking to her.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
it felt because when they're at the diner, when they sit down at the diner for the first time, the way that they're having like the banter with each other feels very like role play as
Oh, yeah.
like, oh, my husband. It's like, oh, I like that tie. He's like, yeah, and he says the same thing she said about, oh, well, he got this bag. It was from a business trip overseas, like, you know, and he says the same thing about the tie.
I think it was.
And you're
Gotta
just
watch
like,
those business trips.
oh, it sounds like a kind of like playful banter in a sense, but at the same time they're putting it out there that, hey, I have a spouse. It's like this is this. I have a spouse, and you're just like,
Yeah.
So
are you the spouse in the beginning?
this movie had a very long production period. They filmed over a year, and
Really?
initially they did have an affair.
Interesting.
And in editing, he started taking things out and realizing, no, that's the.
Is
that's
that
the
why I
story.
felt very like
Yeah.
antsy because I knew there was an affair going on? I'm like, but it didn't feel like an affair because I was sitting there like in the beginning like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I was like, they're gonna have a very intimate affair, and then I was just like,
Well, it's a
not
workshop.
that kind of an
Yeah,
affair.
it's just not.
Yeah.
It's
I was like-
not sexual.
They
Affair
kept
of the
getting
hearts.
closer
Yeah.
though. They kept getting closer, and I was like, okay, we've got to build. Let's go. And it didn't happen, and I was just like, my little heart was just like, oh.
I think it would have almost detracted a little bit if they did.
It might have, yeah. But I felt like I was like, okay, this is an affair movie. Why aren't they having the affair?
Yeah.
Like,
One of
do
the
it.
things that Wong Kar-wai mentioned while talking about the film is that there are plenty of movies about affairs, and that's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
He wanted something completely different. Those exist over there. That is not what this is about. These are about the people picking up the pieces. And I think they did heal each other. And I think her heartbreak, like it's never going away. She stayed with her husband. That betrayal never goes away. And for him, he was able to bury his secrets and his past and move forward. But there's multiple heartbreaks for him.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I almost see it the other way. I almost see it as their, and I don't know that either is wrong or anything like that, or I might be totally misreading it, but I kind of saw it as their real heartbreak wasn't because of their spouses, was because they couldn't be together, and then they both just kind of found a way to move on and live their life. Like your heart breaks, but you end up finding a way. You just keep living your life day by day. She chose to stay with her husband. We don't really know what happened with the other couple.
Was her
But-
boss also having an affair?
He was.
Everyone's having an affair.
That's
It wasn't uncommon though, to be fair.
I mean, it's not uncommon now.
It's not uncommon now, but
Amanda's like, in 1962 in Hong Kong.
well,
This
I know
time of the
I was
season, it
actually
was
gonna
not
kind of
uncommon
go
to
that
have
way.
an-
I'm not gonna lie. I know in a lot of like, I know in China and Japan, a lot of marriages tend to be out of like during that time. It's changing now more so than ever, where like women are now just not getting married when they don't want to anymore. It used to be that, oh hey, you're like 20, why aren't you married yet? It's like you're practically like having kids isn't gonna. It's one of those, your biological time clock. You want to be taken care of. That's kind of what the woman's role kind of was at the time. As I said, it's modernizing now, where more women are going into the workforce and choosing to stay single.
I'm all
That's
for
fine.
that because
Yeah.
I want to be taken care of. You know what I mean? I want to be the trophy husband.
But the
that
problem
stays home.
with marriages of convenience are that you don't build strong relationships with people. Sometimes you meet someone that your parents picked out for you and you go on like 1 or 2 dates with them. It's kind of how the marriage process kind of goes. It's like your parents know someone in the neighborhood or someone that's a family friend, or they find someone through like a matchmaker, and they the parents meet and
Tinder?
they
Fiddler on
Yeah.
the Roof. I was thinking.
yeah, the parents meet each other and then they have a sit down with the two candidates and they give them some alone time to chat, and they get to go on dates or something like that just to kind of get to know each other. But they're not very intimate. It's just kind of very like blind date-esque, where it's like you're just kind of standing there like, so what do you like to do? It's like, what's your job? What's your income? Let's get all this stuff out of the way. And so I can see them having marriages out of convenience sake, not so much romance, and that's what makes the movie a little bit more heart-wrenching, is having that background and being like, everybody's marriage seems to be something like, her boss didn't get his wife a gift, he left it to the secretary, which was something I've seen often in a lot of like dramas and stuff like that. When it comes to like secretarial work, they'll get their female secretaries to be like, hey, my wife's a woman, what do you think she's gonna like? And they're like, okay, I got you. And that's it. They don't. It's not special. It's not him going out and picking it out himself. There's no thought. It's like, my secretary thought this was nice. Now I'm gonna pin it off as me doing it, so she'll like me. And it seems like we're having a happy marriage, and it means I'm thoughtful. So it's interesting to see. At least the one honest character of this movie was the old guy that he worked with at the news place, because he was like, I'm not getting married. He's like, he's married, but he's like, I'm just gonna go, like, to the strip club. And I'm like, he's honest, at least. He's over here spouting it out. Everyone's hiding the fact that they're having an affair, and like, people are just keeping quiet about it when they know about
It's
it.
usually not something that you.
It's true, but at least I respect the old guy for being really honest about it.
One of my favorite scenes is after Sue finds out that her husband is having an affair, and then she has to then go to work and make sure that her boss's mistress and wife don't find out about each other and the wires don't cross, and she's now having this moral dilemma. She's like, this is happening to me. This must be what his wife feels like. And you can see it in her body language.
She's in that role.
It's...
Yeah.
I thought the affair, since it wasn't like sexual, it felt like, was more, I thought at one point that the affair was more muse feeling, because I know that they bonded over the fact that he's a writer and he wants to write clearly a story about martial arts.
Yeah.
And I thought that, I think my favorite scene of the movie is when they're in the hotel room or whose ever room and they're laughing. Because it felt like for once in her life, like she wasn't so like uptight, having to worry, stuff like that. It's like she let loose. It wasn't so much the crying scenes. The crying scenes were great, but I felt like her laughter, like the genuine laughter between both of them, was like kind of the pinnacle of the movie for me. Because after sitting there for a while and just being like anticipating something like awful to happen, you're just like, oh my god, they're gonna do it, and then they're gonna get caught because she got scolded by the old lady, and everyone's starting. First off, she missed out on dinner like 10 times. Rude. Free dinner? And then she goes and laughs, and I have a good time with that one. But it's them genuinely. I don't know if you've ever been there to that particular feeling. Like, I've definitely been there before. Like, I remember I like dated a guy. Like, I didn't date him. I really liked him, but I really like drawing. And one of the things I really liked was like he would like tell me I was really good at drawing and stuff like that, and we would collaborate on some stuff, and it was like a really happy feeling, because you genuinely feel like in the moment when that's happening and you're working on something and someone's giving you ideas and you're just going back and forth between them, it's such a fun moment, and it feels like you get closer in those moments because you're creating something together. But in the end, heartbreak awaits you, and then you don't want to draw anymore, and stuff like that. But it's like, I definitely like empathize or sympathize with that emotion she has in that moment. So that's kind of what stuck out for me in that very scene. So I feel it. You move on. I've been there.
Yeah.
Joe, you mentioned something about this movie took a year to make.
Yes.
Is Wong Kar-wai like a Terrence Malick guy?
Yeah, no, very much so.
Oh God, that's like, you read the interviews with the actors and then, funny enough, I remember an interview with Tony Leung. I think it must have been around when 2046 came out, and he said something like they didn't even have a script.
Yeah.
They just start shooting things together, and they have like these little moments that he captures.
Wong's scripts since Days of Being Wild have just been very vague, more or less, and just like ways to secure funding. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna make a movie kind of like this, and usually he just finds it in the shoot.
That's just spun out of like a short film he was doing I don't remember what it was called. It's in my notes somewhere.
Find them. I want to know.
But a story of food is what it was going to be called, and it was just going to be a man and a woman in a diner sharing secrets and noodles, and then this is what spun out of it. Yes, Lou.
See what food does? It brings people together.
You were gonna bring up. I had forgotten what I was gonna bring up, and it's not as serious as that. But the food in this movie looked amazing.
Oh, it looks next level.
I love
The
Chinese
food is a theme, actually. So,
Is it?
Yeah, there's quite a few different themes, but food is one of them.
There's a kind of interesting, lovely, very funny, kind of sexy Japanese film that came out about 15 years earlier than this called Tampopo. And it's like the ultimate marriage of like, oh, you've seen it?
No, I just know the name.
Okay, yeah. Of like
think it means
eroticism and
yellow.
food. And
I'm not
it's
mistaken.
just one of the best, most kind of like meta movie making experiences. It's wonderful. I highly recommend. Nowhere near as great as the one we watched today, but you know, in terms of beautiful food.
It's like, let's go get some noodles.
That's
Guys.
the name
Caffeinated
of the
Librarians on the road.
We've been pitching this for some time.
I think
now.
I say it every episode.
Yeah.
You do.
Which one?
Episode.
Which one?
Caffeinated Librarians on the road.
There is something missing when, like, you know, we should
Okay.
just get rid of the word caffeinated because we've never spoken about coffee.
Well, today
Look.
people actually have coffee.
Yeah, we
We don't
got.
speak about it. We don't go to like Cold Spring Coffee House. And
Well,
be like,
the well,
this is our.
well, the
Yeah.
reason why I created the name was because at the time, our former colleague Amy and I was just the two of us, and we both loved coffee. That was the reason
And
why.
it wasn't taken.
That too. So yeah, that was the whole idea that we're librarians and we're
Joke's on you.
caffeinated.
I'm always caffeinated.
Yeah,
in
that
some
was,
capacity.
All right, everybody's got to bring coffee or tea next episode.
I'm gonna bring it in
we
my
gotta
coat.
actually go to a roastery, go to Peekskill Coffee House, do something like that, and like. Sorry, that was me. That was a diversion, digression from the topic. I apologize.
Fine. I had a thought before, but I don't remember.
I was trying to
what it
give you
was.
time to find those notes.
Oh, I
That
found
was
it
all
while I was talking.
intentional.
Yeah.
not
So
realistic.
the different themes in the movie, which is right below the fact that it came from a short film, is the secrets, domesticity, which Simona pointed out, time and history, distance and displacement, which the misconnections is really interesting to me, and the phone calls where she calls him in Singapore and she's like crying and she's so disheveled but she won't speak into the phone. And I love that. I love their performances. Tony Leung actually won Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival for this. So, which well deserved.
Yeah.
I know, like, we've mentioned the ending and how it's sort of bittersweet, but I also wonder if it's also a bit more realistic. Like, because I mean, I've never been in that situation at all, so I can't speak to how you would. But it's sort of like, especially if you're contemplating ending a relationship and you don't know how long these two people have been married to their spouses, but I think there still is some kind of emotional investment, at least, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be so easy to up and say, okay, I'm leaving now, because there's a lot of disruption that comes with divorce. You know, thankfully at that time there were no children, so maybe that would have made it a little easier because children brings in. Well, no. Like I'm talking
Children
about.
will bring them together. That's what it means. It's okay.
No.
They
what I
fix a
meant-
marriage.
What I meant to say is, at the time there was no child. I'm assuming in the mix, and when you have children, yes, it further complicates things because whatever. But but I'm striking out.
I'm messing with you.
But yeah, so it seemed more realistic that maybe, I mean, I don't know if his marriage has ended. I don't know if you get an indication of that. It has. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like I watched this so long ago. But I think it's a bit more realistic maybe on her part
Oh yeah.
that she would not have wanted to just up and end
Yeah.
things.
like-
Because you can see that she is conflicted. I think if she really was of the mind, I'm ending it, there wouldn't have been that internal conflict. So I think it's a sad kind of, because you almost feel like, is she settling? Like, I don't know if the husband had sort of changed his ways in any way.
No.
So she's remaining with a guy that does not respect her enough to sort of honor their marriage.
It's
But
also
Keeps
just,
going on
like-
business trips.
But like we were saying
Yeah.
before about the morals and the values
Yeah.
that she has, but also before you're in that situation, you're
Yeah.
like, of course I'd leave. Why would I do that? Why would I stay? That person
Yeah.
clearly doesn't respect me.
yeah.
And they're so selfish that they cheated, because people that cheat, they're only thinking about themselves.
Right.
It's not usually a reflection of the person being cheated on.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a lot of baggage there. There's a lot of emotional investment. And it's not something as simple as, if this happens to me, I'll leave.
Yeah.
Well, first off, she doesn't cook.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't
She-
cook for herself.
Yeah, she can cook, but yeah.
Yeah.
She can't cook.
And also, if you had a banging noodles shop right down the street,
Yo, I'm so mad that I don't live near that close. It's just
A noodle
a
shop.
good noodle
You
shop.
live
You live
in
in
Queens.
I gotta drive though. I gotta drive. I wanna walk down the road in a slow-mo fashion
the
with violins
subway.
playing in the background.
Put
Oh,
on
you
your
know what?
earbuds, play the song, go to a Momo
No,
shop. It's like,
it's not the same. I need a band phone. Her hair didn't blow in the wind. There was too much hairspray.
what
Her
struck
hair was
me
made to not move.
this time that I watched the movie was, I think I wasn't as aware in 20 years ago when I watched it, 18 years ago when I watched it, 15 years ago, was the isolation among a ton of people. And that, I think maybe it's just like a offshoot of the pandemic when we were just by ourselves, and how we went back into the world, and it was really like uncomfortable and like socially isolating, and I don't know. That part hit me more this time than it did the first 11 times.
I was like, it's great.
Amanda was feeling the pandemic.
Anyway,
But I know what you're saying. That's what,
thank you, Amanda, for whispering over my entire statement.
I also thinking about like the feeling of isolation and being alone. Like Simona was saying, you're alone amongst all of these people, but also she's the only one that knows her husband's cheating besides Tony Leung's character. So she has this knowledge by herself.
Yeah.
As far as
And
we know.
that-
Because is it possible, like, especially the older woman is always trying to get her to have dinner with them? Because she kind of strikes me as the character that she knows everything about everyone within that complex. So, it's not, it's sort of like, is it one of those things where we're not shown, sort of like, if I'm making any sense, like
Yeah,
maybe
no, I
she
understand.
is
Yeah.
aware of the
It's a possibility,
cheating,
yeah.
but she's not going to say anything per se. I don't know. Maybe it's just me reading into it.
There is like a theme of being polite too.
Yeah.
I almost think that she, because they mentioned like rumors a lot, like
Yeah.
a couple times.
Yeah.
It was almost like maybe if that woman had an inkling of anything, it would have been that maybe something was going on between the two of them.
Oh, okay.
When really there was, but there wasn't.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
they
rumors
didn't-
are significant in
Oh, yeah,
cultures like that.
rumors
It's
can ruin.
Yeah.
ruin lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the wives are talking about it,
Yeah.
I also like the old lady that actually cooks for everyone. Anyone else love her character?
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
You just wanted to hug her,
Yeah.
like wrap her in a blanket and keep
I'd
her
be eating
safe.
dinner with them every night.
Free food.
But to
Great
go back
talks.
to what you were talking about with the isolation and stuff like that, once you said that, I won't front and say that I was observant enough to really notice it. But now that you say that, there were like a lot of shots of, and I can only really think of the one now, but it was at one of their places of business. I think it was hers, and there was like a wall, but there's like a window in it, and you just see somebody in there, and you kind of see that a lot, and they like lingered on that for a little bit, and it's that was kind of, it's all meshing now.
Yeah.
It's all coming together now, Luke.
I just want to shout out that so Wong Kar-wai's usual cinematographer, Christopher Doyle, he shot some of this, but he had to leave during production, and Wong Kar-wai brought in a very different stylist for it, Mark Lee Ping Bing, who works a lot in with Ho Xiaoshen, who's a very great Taiwanese director who does slower, more contemplative films, and I feel like his style really brings a lot to this in terms of just letting things linger and just letting things play out in like beautiful tableaus and
I mean, every shot I felt like was just really beautifully, purposefully done. And the colors, I mean, everything was, it was just really...
And nobody makes cigarette smoke.
Well, that's
Sexier.
How great was that? Yeah.
Oh, I loved when the camera would focus in on the cigarette smoke and everything else would be blurred out.
Yeah.
It's just stunning.
It's like that's a like promotion for smoking better than any cigarette
It's just
commercial I've ever seen.
Yeah. Movies and TV shows that do smoking really well, it's like, man, I want a cigarette. But obviously I don't.
So that's what they've been trying to get rid of for years.
So there's the theatrical version. There, I got the Blu-ray, the Criterion Collection Blu-ray way back in the day, like in 2010 or 11 or something like that. 4K release and everything went green. Why is that, Joe?
You know, there's no good explanation for it. Wong Kar-wai regraded films and made some of them green. I can't say why.
He did that?
Yeah, you know, it was an intentional creative choice. It's sort of been a trend with a lot of like films that get like new scans and stuff, that new scans come out looking a little greener. I can't explain this.
I remember when Ridley Scott made his director's extended cut of Kingdom of Heaven, everything was like blue as hell out of nowhere.
I'm so glad we're out of the blue era. The blue era, I hated every second of it. But yeah, I don't know. This wasn't the most changed out of them. Fallen Angels was. He straight up changed the aspect ratio for that. So, like, yeah. I don't really know why, but hey, they're his movies, I guess.
There's movies.
At least Criterion Channel still has the old versions.
Yes.
Is what we watched on Max the old?
I'm not sure.
They have a deal with Criterion Channel to get a handful of the movies from that collection, and I think you're just watching the Criterion Channel.
So that's the right.
But don't quote me on
They
that.
have both versions on Criterion,
Yeah.
so I can't say which one ended up on that.
This didn't seem. I didn't notice it
Okay.
being green.
No, it's the 4K disc.
Yeah.
The Wong Kar-wai collection. That's like,
Green.
yeah,
Oh,
Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
Yeah.
love Ninja Turtles. Sorry.
I think we did.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I
excellent.
love it. Like this
Yeah.
is one of
It's
like
a phenomenal movie.
painted on my tombstone, the movie that like moved me in life a lot. This would be on that list.
Yeah.
That's my friend Nick is the one that introduced me to it originally, and he has some of the vintage movie posters from it that are framed in his home, and they're just like chef's kiss beautiful, and yeah, I love them.
Now that's something. That's a special person that he would take his time to venture out to find those posters.
I hope he watches this episode.
He texted me while I was watching the movie, and I was like, did I summon Nicholas?
Weird.
Yeah, this was the first time I saw it, and I really loved it. When the Sight and Sounds list came out, I remember that was the one that I like gravitated to, because whatever the picture that they picked was when he's like standing in the background a little bit, and she's in the foreground, and the red light is like on them.
She's
And-
facing forward, and he's like looking
Yeah.
back at her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Well, excellent choice.
Really, thank
Yes.
you. This
Thank
was a
you.
Was
nice.
this your first?
This was my first pick.
Wow.
We've had a really good run of
You've
movies.
set the bar pretty high now.
It's romantic comedies next.